Recorded Books presents The Ragged Edge of the World, Encounters at the Frontier where Modernity, Wildlands, and Indigenous People Meet, by Eugene Linden, narrated by Luis Moreno, and directed by Shane O'Connell.
Introduction. I never boarded an airplane before college, but just a year after graduation, I began a series of forays to some of the most remote, wild, and calamitous parts of the globe. First, I went to Vietnam as a journalist, making a round-the-world trip out of getting there and getting back. Then it was off to Africa and New Guinea during the writing of my early books, and then virtually everywhere else as a journalist reporting on global environmental issues for Time, and on assignment for National Geographic and other magazines. These travels were prompted by diverse writing assignments, but all were informed by a hunger to see what I call the ragged edge of the world, the places where wildlands, indigenous cultures, and modernity collide. Since my childhood, when I watched rustic neighborhoods give way to strip malls and tract homes, I've been acutely sensitive to change and loss. Those feelings intensified as I traveled to places such as Polynesia, Borneo, the Amazon, and the Arctic. Time and again I saw traditional cultures encounter and succumb to the power of modern money, technology, ideas, and images. Even places with no humans whatsoever feel the force of our presence. In the Ndoki, a remote and magical rainforest in the Congo where not even the pygmies have ventured during the past 1,000 years, the impact of humanity intrudes in the dust that blows in from the desertified Sahel in the north, and in an ominous drying out of the forest due to logging in the surrounding areas. Nostalgia is the word we use to describe the bittersweet evocation of precious feelings that lie just beyond reach in the past. Often, the emotion arises during rites of passage, or out of the intricate matrix of personal history, memory, and place. But what word or phrase adequately describes the feelings evoked by repeatedly observing the disappearance of an entire landscape, a people, a language, or a way of life? It's akin to forever showing up for the last scenes of a tragedy in which one can glimpse but never fully experience the past glory of the protagonist. In the course of my career, I became a monitor of the march of modernity. Like some modern Josephus, in my 40 years of travels, I've witnessed the battles at the front lines of change, followed the retreat of the world where magic still lives and where animals and spirits dominate. And I have documented the human and animal detritus left behind in the aftermath of the advancing armies of the consumer society. Today, many of the locales of my early travels bear little resemblance to the places I first visited. Even the most remote areas have become more accessible. 3 years before I explored the Ndoki forest, it took 5 days to negotiate the quicksand and swamps that guard the perimeter of this enchanted place. By 1991, when I traveled there, scientists had laid down some logs as a primitive path through part of the swamp, and it took us a day and a half to get from the tiny village of Bomassa to the edge of the river and swamps that isolate the Ndoki from the rest of the Congo. Now, a car can take visitors to the banks of the Ndoki River in half an hour. Mike Fay, the explorer who brought me into the Ndoki, says that the first alarms about threats to the region were met with skepticism because a huge buffer of uncut forest surrounded it. Now, every forest surrounding the Ndoki has been logged. The Ndoki persists inviolate, however, while other places and peoples I visited haven't been so lucky. I traveled to the interior of Borneo in the early 1990s to write about the disappearing way of life of the Penan.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?